3. Patience is the weapon of believers and advocates of truth, following the example of the prophets and messengers. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, demonstrated patience when he was thrown into the fire. And as a result, Allah saved him from it. Thus, through patience, one attains victory. 4. Another lesson to learn is the necessity of seeking help and support from Allah in all circumstances. As nothing is in the hands of anyone other than Him. If it were within their control, they would have repelled death from themselves. When Ibrahim, peace be upon him, was thrown into the fire and Jibril, peace be upon him, came to him, asking what he needed, Ibrahim replied, "Not from you, but from Allah. Allah is sufficient for me. And He is the best disposer of affairs." 5. Indeed, calling people to the truth, establishing evidence, and proving the falsehood of their beliefs are essential aspects. Just as Ibrahim, peace be upon him, tested the idols to show their invalidity. He then engaged in debates and discussions with the king until he prevailed and proved the fallacy of their beliefs. 6. Patience, open-mindedness, and perseverance are qualities that the preacher must possess. Just as Ibrahim, peace be upon him, demonstrated with his father and people. 7. Another lesson from the story of Ibrahim, peace be upon him, is the value of generosity and hospitality, which are traits of the believers. As Ibrahim, peace be upon him, demonstrated when 3 guests came to him, he offered them a fattened calf, where a young she-goat was sufficient for their needs. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also emphasized the importance of hospitality by saying, "Whoever believes in Allah and the last day should treat his guest generously." 8. One of the most important lessons to be taken from the story of Ibrahim, peace be upon him, is obedience to the commands and prohibitions of Allah. When Ibrahim, peace be upon him, saw in his dream that he should sacrifice his son, he carried out this act. This represents the pinnacle of sacrifice for the sake of Allah. Any father who would take such a step teaches a lesson about the devotion of believers and callers to Islam when they command others to fulfill some of the Islamic duties. Any hardship or affliction is comparable to that, and Islam cannot be upheld if Muslims do not embody these qualities. Today, some Muslims claim to follow the Sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him, but they are afraid of even slightly hurting their children's feelings when it comes to religious matters. In this era, the youth do not adhere to Islamic teachings, so how can they differ in noble 143 character from others? This is a great calamity for the Muslim community. 9. Indeed, one of the most important lessons we can learn from the story of Ibrahim, peace be upon him, is the importance of raising children to be obedient and respectful. When Ibrahim, peace be upon him, presented the idea of sacrificing Ismail, peace be upon him, he did not object and replied with, "Sami'an wa ta'ata," we hear and obey. It is essential that the children of Muslims also show such obedience and respect to their parents. Children should exercise patience when their parents ask them to do something, especially when they reach old age and may need more attention, often complaining about everything. In such situations, the children should treat them with gentleness and compassion. Children should remember the obedience of Ismail, peace be upon him. They can learn from him the virtues of sincerity, truthfulness, and enduring difficulties with patience. 10. Ibrahim asked Allah, the Almighty, to show him how He resurrects the dead so that he may witness it with his own eyes and attain complete certainty. This request was related to witnessing the resurrection itself, as faith and conviction were already present in his heart. But seeing it with his eyes would further strengthen his heart and increase his certainty. 11. Another lesson we can learn is that a Muslim should be prepared to carry out Allah's commands, whether they are desirable or disliked, and be certain that they are right and correct. 12. One of the important lessons is that individuals, especially Muslims, should not blindly follow the customs and traditions of their ancestors and people, nor should they indulge in innovations in religion. Instead, they must adhere to the straight path guided by the Quran and the Sunnah, traditions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. They should critically examine everything and utilize the intellect that Allah has bestowed upon them. They must strive to purify Allah, the Almighty, from all deficiencies and attributes that do not befit him, and the prophets and messengers as well. 13. Indeed, the incident of Ibrahim, peace be upon him, being thrown into the fire carries a profound lesson. It demonstrates that even if all people were to conspire and harm a believer, they would not have the power to do so. On the contrary, their actions would ultimately turn out to be in the believer's favor, causing harm to themselves and serving as evidence in favor of the believer, just as it happened with Ibrahim, peace be upon him, when he was thrown into the fire and it did not harm him. It clearly demonstrated the